Good afternoon or evening, I suppose, to everyone. And thank you for joining us here this afternoon for this time of study together. We're going to be finishing up tonight the Baptist Faith and Message, and we'll move on next week to a new topic, a new study. But we're going to discuss tonight Article 18, as we look again, finishing up the Baptist Faith and Message. And again, the articles, if you look at them, they kind of build on each other, beginning from Scripture and just kind of moving forward. And tonight we're going to look at, again, the final article, the article that was added in the year 2000, and an article that has caused some contention. I don't know what, some disagreement among some. And it is an article simply entitled "The Family," or "Family" is the title of this particular article. And again, it has caused the most contention of any. There are churches and Baptist organizations that have refused to adopt this the 2000 Baptist Faith and Message. Many churches, if you look at their bylaws, will say the 1963 Baptist Faith and Message, and the reason usually is this particular article. I don't quite understand that. Again, it's pretty straightforward, and as the other articles in the Baptist Faith and Message, I believe it is biblical. If you actually get a copy of or look up online the Baptist Faith and Message, like each of the articles, you will see an assortment of Scripture underneath the actual article that are references and supportive of the statement. And as the other articles, I think that these articles say what Scripture says. It brings it together in one. It brings together a lot of Scripture into one simple statement in modern English. But I don't think there's much of anything in there that doesn't stand the scrutiny of Scripture. And so we're going to look tonight at this article. And again, even though it's the most contentious, I may spend probably the least time on it because I think it's straightforward and I don't think there's much to argue about. But let me just read the article straight to you as it is written. Article 18, entitled "Family," says this: God has ordained the family as the foundational institution of human society. It is composed of persons related to one another by marriage, blood, or adoption. Marriage is the uniting of one man and one woman in covenant commitment for a lifetime. It is God's unique gift to reveal the union between Christ and His church and to provide for the man and the woman in marriage the framework for intimate companionship, the channel of sexual expression according to biblical standards, and the means for procreation of the human race. The husband and wife are of equal worth before God, since both are created in God's image. The marriage relationship models the way God relates to His people. A husband is to love his wife as Christ loved the church. He has the God-given responsibility to provide for, to protect, and to lead his family. A wife is to submit herself graciously to the servant leadership of her Lord. Servant leadership of her husband, even as the church willingly submits to the headship of Christ. She, being in the image of God, as is her husband, and thus equal to him, has the God-given responsibility to respect her husband, to serve as his helper in the managing the household and nurturing the next generation. Children from the moment of conception are a blessing and heritage from the Lord. Parents are to demonstrate to their children God's pattern for marriage. Parents are to teach their children spiritual and moral values and to lead them through consistent lifestyle example and loving discipline to make choices based on biblical truth. Children are to honor and obey their parents. And again, then there is a lengthy section of scripture references that then support that particular statement regarding the family. And as we take a moment just to discuss it, again, as I said, there's a whole section of scripture verses connected and printed along with that article. And because the reason for that is the Bible is full of scripture addressing the issue of the family. Everything from the marriage relationship to the parental role to the role of children are addressed by Scripture from Genesis throughout. We have a listing of Scripture that compare and explain what a godly home, what the Bible expects, what God expects from marriage, from parents, from children, and it is further exemplified by the idea of the church as the bride of Christ, and Christ then as the bridegroom. We have the ultimate example of what a family, of what marriage are to look like. And so it is obvious that that marriage is more than a Dr. Phil philosophy. Marriage is a biblical, theological, God-given institution with God-given instruction regarding the family. And because the family is a spiritual idea, is a biblical idea, then the Bible, I said, gives us direction on how to govern and direct and to live as a family, again with our ultimate model being Christ and the church as the bride and bridegroom as an ultimate model of what a home, what a marriage is to look like. And this statement in the article makes clear that God's desire is that a marriage relationship, a family relationship, brings peace and joy and satisfaction to the husband and the wife, and it is an example for the children. I also believe that that what it says and what it's teaching and what the Bible teaches is that a godly, God-based, Bible-based home is a witness to a lost and dying world. I think it is an example to them, and so again, this is the whole image and purpose of marriage. And the Baptist Faith and Message article, again drawing from Scripture, gives us some very clear direction about the role of everybody inside of the family. The husband, the wife, parents, children are all detailed in Scripture and then summarized in this article. And one of the key passages in the book of Ephesians, where it talks about the husband taking care of his wife and loving his wife as Christ loved the church, and that again, that image of the husband relating to the wife in the way Christ related to the church. Again, Christ, we know how much Christ loved the church. He loved the church enough to die for the church. He cared for the church, took care of her church, took care of his church. And the church in turn loves, honors, serves Christ. Well, that same picture is there for the marriage, that the husband is to love, to cherish, to protect, to take care of, provide for his wife, and in return, then the wife has that respect and honor for the Lord. And this passage says she will submit herself to him as unto the Lord. Now, again, that whole idea, and that's, again, this article caused some debate. This whole idea, a lot of things about this article I think caused some debate, but one of them was the idea of a wife submitting herself to a husband. I'm sure you're all aware that many times in our modern time that wedding vows, they eliminate the words love, honor, and obey. But here's the key, is what we see in the book of Ephesians again, is that the wife submits herself to the husband as unto the Lord. And so she submits to him the way she would submit to the Lord, which again we understand and know that the Lord is not a slave driver. The Lord isn't a dictator. The Lord isn't coming out with a whip and chair and those kind of things. And so again, when you just say, if you just say that the wife is supposed to submit herself to the husband, yeah, you've got some issues with that idea. But when you say that the husband is to love the wife as Christ loved the church, and we know that Christ was willing to die for the church, and that the wife is to submit to the husband as unto the Lord. That as unto the Lord statement on the end of that changes everything. The husband loving the wife as Christ loved the church. That as Christ loved the church and as unto the Lord changes everything about the man being the head of the house and the wife being submissive. It doesn't put us in a master-servant type role. And so, again, it is a different idea here than just submitting, than just being the head of the house. It is the idea of loving like Christ loved the church and submitting like you submit to the Lord. And so, and that's seen again, if you go on in the article, by the statement that both husband and wife are completely equal before the Lord, and it makes that very clear in this article. It doesn't, yes, one is considered the leader and one is considered submissive, but ultimately it says that they are both equal before God, that God sees them equally with each other. Again, it is a responsibility. The husband is to be a gentle, caring, nurturing leader in the home, regardless of the response of the wife. The wife is to be submissive. And again, it's all in that spiritual relationship. And then if children, it says at the end of the last section of that article, when children come into the equation, they are taught as well, again, the same statement. They are to obey their parents in the Lord. And so you see all three of these statements in our relate, and that's where most people, I think, mess up and get some things, get things a little bit out of kilter. They say the man's the head of the house. They say the wife is to be submissive. The children are to obey their parents. Yeah, but that's only a piece of the statement. The husband is to love the wife as Christ loved the church. The wife is to submit as unto the Lord, and the children are to obey their parents in the Lord. And so all of that relationship, the husband to the wife to the husband, parents to the child to the parents, all of it is done in light of the love of God, the relationship with God. And so a family that is built. You could take, in my opinion, and I think it's a biblical opinion, you take a husband that's the leader of the house and a wife that tries to be submissive and children that try to be obedient, but you don't have the Lord in that picture as well. It's never going to be, I'm not going to say it won't work. I'm not going to say that they're doomed, but I'm going to say it's never going to be the joy, bring the peace. It's never going to have the blessing it does that when you have, again, a husband who is leading as Christ loved the church, a wife who is submissive as unto the Lord, children who are obedient in the addition of the Lord to the equation is what makes all the difference in the world, and it's completely contrary to what our world, what our culture in this time does. What they represent of a family. And if you look at this again, when you see how this is laid out again, and not just by the Baptist Faith and Message, this is scriptural. That the husband loves the wife as Christ loved the church. Well, how much did he love her? Sacrificially. The parents, the wife is to be submissive to the husband as to the Lord. So what does that mean? Sacrificially. The children are to be obedient in the Lord, sacrificially. And so it's this mutual sacrifice that they have for each other. It's this mutual service. They submit themselves first to the Lord. They submit themselves to each other and come together as a family. And a couple real simple observations about what this article is saying. The article is saying that the family is the foundation of our world. God, we know that we say that God created three institutions: the family, the government, and the church. And again, each one of those God created and installed for the betterment and for the enjoyment of man. And so the family is there, again, starting back in Eden, coming forward. God instituted the family as the foundational. Family was created before the church, before government, and we have again the church for our spiritual benefit. We have the government to hold us together socially, and we have the family undergirds both of those. And as whatever happens to the family ultimately impacts the church, it ultimately impacts the government, and so the family is God's first institution that He created for the benefit of man. God, the article also explains, I think, some important pieces when it describes the family, that we are family by marriage, blood, or adoption. Again, the biblical family is children, grandchildren, aunts, uncles, and even adoption. Adoption shows us what Christ did for us, that we've been adopted into the family of God. And it shows us, this article also explains to us the purpose of marriage, an intimate relationship, it says, that the Bible describes as becoming one flesh. And again, it says very clearly it's between one man and one woman, not one man and four women, or two men or two women, but one man and one woman for life. And that children, another thing that I like about this article, that it doesn't just specifically come out and say, but it does teach that children are a gift of God. And so, in my opinion, in uh, I would have liked for it honestly to have been a little clearer if I would have been given the opportunity to have some input on its writing. The line says, "Children from the moment of conception are a blessing and a heritage from the Lord." And I feel like that when they wrote this statement, it said children from the moment of conception was a statement about abortion. But I wish they would have been a little more clear in that area that we are opposed to the idea of abortion. But that children, it does say that they're from conception are a blessing and a heritage from the Lord. And so, again, while this statement has caused a great deal of contention and division among some, for the life of me, I don't understand why. I think it's pretty much straightforward the way most Christians, most Baptists view the family and marriage. And so, again, it just, the whole idea is that all of it brings us back and points us back to the design and plan of a holy God for our benefit and for our enjoyment. So that wraps up for us. Again, I told you there's not much for me to say about this article. I think it's straightforward. I think, again, it lines up with what probably most of us believe about the family. And so, again, it just kind of culminates everything as we've moved through from Scripture, God, just walking through the various stages of the Baptist faith and message. Now, certainly, this is not everything as Baptists we believe, but this is our core fundamental beliefs in some main areas. Again, if you want to see it, all you have to do is search. If you type in BF and M, now you might get, I don't know what all you might get, but you'll definitely get a link to the Baptist Faith and Message, and you can read over it and see the scripture references and look at it yourself and form your opinions of what it says of any of the articles. And so I said we'll wrap that up, and again, pretty straightforward on the family, and we will move on to something. Hope to see you here next Wednesday night as we continue to study together. All right, have a great evening. Be blessed.